Da-da-da-da-da. Oh yeah, I don't mean no beat, they call me one blow. Raspy, I'm going with Talima. Hey, hey, Taita Marombe. Mama, hear me now. Yeah. I'm singing a voice and ground, but inside I'm crying. Zimbabwe, the youths are crying. Quite a depression. Is it the crime to be born in Zimbabwe? The unemployment, hunger, the prostitution. Our girls were not like this Nika and Ngozi. When we talk, we get locked up. Free Walter Mumzambi. Tane mimuri matsotsi. Sabotage atidi. Taita marombe. Nika and Ngozi. Taita marombe. Drug abuse too easy mind. Taita marombe. Simuka Zimbabwe. Taita marombe. Banu bane Simba. Taita marombe. Mama, yeah. Taita marombe. Baby, look at it this way when we wake up. We are greeted by poverty, so palpable. Reality is we have not even a cent yet. Degrees hanging on the wall in mama's house. Seriously, Zimbabwean youth, is this normal? Are we conditioned to accept evil governance? Are we scared? Politics is not sacred. Simuka Zimbabwe, have confidence. Weak Nal and brothers are the ones eating butter bromance. Yet you pass mass, but still sleeping on mates. Who's the fool? It's not the government, but you. Haven't you heard? Democracy is governed by the people. We need answers now. AIDS and drug abuse is spreading. Yet hospital they looting, them tombs bloating. My heart is bleeding. I'm calling out for revolution. I'm not kidding. Until when, why are we silencing our TD? Enough of the fear. Brother, sister, do you hear? Taita marombe. Taita marombe. The so-called ministers are clueless, incompetence. They came in with no reference and experience. All she did was to pull down her pants. Next morning, she's minister of ICT. I'm not hating, I'm only stating. 2017, we regretting. Now it's food, iPhone, cash and cars for twerking. Ass licking fake, socialize, they see the looting. But selfishly, why do we celebrate Madam Boss? Why do listen to fake artists like Ja Preza? Check, Halloween, socialize Jackie. Cancel these enablers, cancel the fake prophets too. Walter Magaya, prophets of profit, Angel Gold Mafia. You have no idea. Mr. Hood carries a gun in church. Criminal, fuck you greedy J Israel opportunists. Fuck the system and the useless military. One more time, fuck evil govern. Taita marom, but inside I'm crying. Zimbabwe, the youths are crying. Tears. Quite a depression. Is it a crime to be born in Zimbabwe? The unemployment, hunger, the prostitution. Our girls were not like this Nika and Ngozi. When we talk, we get locked up. Free Walter Muzambi. Tane mimuri matsotsi. Sabotage atidi. Taita marombe. Nika and Ngozi. Taita marombe. Drug abuse too easy mind. Taita marombe. Simuka Zimbabwe. Taita marombe. Banu bane Simba. Taita marombe. Mama, yeah. Taita marombe. My heart is bleeding. I'm calling out for revolution. I'm not kidding. Until when, why are we silencing a TD? Enough of the fear. Brother, sister, do you hear? Taita marombe. Taita marombe.
Right, yes. So today, right, I'm quite sure most of you guys, you're waiting for this show today. And I do appreciate those that indicated that they'll be coming to the show. It's very much appreciated. Um, right, so okay, just give me a second, ladies and gentlemen. Right, okay. I just want to cross post this. Right. Okay. Then one more pin. Ngoma Diankara. So they say Ngoma Diankara. How you doing? I see Honorable Tendai Biti is here with us. Comrade Distro. How are you? Thank you for coming through. Mkomati Nashe Mahachi. How you doing? I hope you're good. I hope you're good, where you are, right now. Right. So yeah, Anita, how you doing? Welcome to the space. Koma Charles, Charles Summers. How you doing? Yeah. So guys, if you can reshare this, if you can repost this, it should be very much appreciated. We should be starting, right now. We should be starting, right now in a few minutes. But I can just give it in another 2 minutes just to ask you guys, to reshare this, to repost this. It's very important that we get to do that. The reason why it is important that we get to do that is the conversation that is about to be had here. It's an important conversation, ladies and gentlemen. It's not only just a conversation. It's not only just a discussion. It's not only just a talk, but it's a conversation designed to make you knowledgeable. It's designed to to implant that knowledge in you. So yeah, so this is why I'm saying, if we can have as many people to come through, it would be very much appreciated. Emmanuel Zelas Gumbo, how you doing? I hope you're okay. I hope you're fine, wherever you are. Right. So I should be starting, shortly. I should be starting, in a minute. I see mkomo wangu gudo rakakwira mawere muriboere. How you doing, Ruva? How are you? Thank you for coming through. Fatale, how you doing? I hope you're good. Mkoma Josh, really say. Thank you very much, for coming through. Right. So, like I told you, Kutipakamira 1-1. Happiness, Janje. How you doing? I hope you're good. Thank you very much for the follow. I followed you back. It's always nice, to retain, the gesture when folks follow you, you got to follow back. That is the cardinal rule. Ever space, you understand? Bus drivers, it is I hope you're good. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want to welcome you to the space. And Honorable Tendai Biti, I'm sending you an invite, to come through as a speaker. Sending you an invite to come through as a speaker. So if you can respond, to that, um, and then we'll get the show on the road. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, as advertised, I am going to be in conversation with Honorable Tendai Biti, and we are going to be discussing issues to do with the budget, issues to do with governance and accountability, issues to do with political structures, like looking at the 2030 term extension, looking at the opposition as an alternative, regional and international dimensions. That is, if the time allows us. So, how we are going to be doing this is, I'll engage Honorable Tendai Biti in a conversation. To be just, I say it's a conversation. I want to move away from it being an interview. I want it to be a conversation because I want it to be interacting. So when we've done that, we'll then allow a portion, a section, a portion or a section or a segment where I will be getting questions from the floor. So the listeners who want to pose, questions, get your questions. You might have, yeah. If you've got any other questions to do with the budget, that you've already, lined up, please get them ready. But some of the questions, maybe you might be in a position to generate some of those questions during the conversation as Honorable Tendai is making his presentation, right? And then we'll bring in folks. You interact, with him. I will bringing in people one at a time. You ask your question, I drop you, he answers. I bring in another one, you ask your question. He answers, and we go on, like that. I want this, and the questions that I am expecting, ladies and gentlemen, they have to be focused on what would have discussed, today. And I'm appealing, Kuti, as a house rule. Most of you guys, how I do operate as a house rule. Anyone who comes in to disturb, the space, or anyone who comes in to try and uh, I will reserve the right to remove you from the space. We just want to have a serious conversation, and we want us to have an engaging conversation, and being cognizant of the fact that we are here to learn. Some of us, we don't even know what that budget, is all about. We don't even know what it means, to us. So this is an opportunity that we are being given today. We have been at this, we had Chennai on Tuesday, and today we are having Honorable Biti, and we are going to tap into his, experience, his expertise, his knowledge, and I'll give him the space to talk to us about this thing. So that is what we are going to be doing today. So Honorable Tendai Biti, I don't know if you have seen the request, or you can make a request, and then I'll bring you onto the platform. But I need us, to start, ASAP, because we only got 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen. We only got 2 hours, so the program is just going to be 2 hours long. So we'll try by all means to condense everything that we want to be talking about in those, 2 hours. And then if there's maybe a follow-up program that we can have, then we have to arrange that with Honorable Tendai Bit, with his permission, of course, and then we have to arrange, that so that he comes through. Right. Honorable Tendai Bit, welcome to the space. Right. I see you have joined me as a speaker, but I'm not sure if you're I'm not sure if you're hearing me, or I'm not sure if you're in a position to talk. Honorable BT, can we just make sure that this is okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right. So, can I ask you to greet our listeners, those who are listening to you right now?
Good evening, listeners. Good evening, compatriots. It's good to be here. Zvakanaka kuva pano.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I say today, I'm having Honorable Tendai Biti. He needs no much of an introduction. We all know that he's a former finance minister, Zimbabwe, and he is a leading voice in Zimbabwean politics. That is, in no doubt. He has been one of the most outspoken critics of the recently delivered 2028 national budget. He penned an opinion piece in the, I think it's Zim Life. He did pen an opinion piece that was published by Zim Life, and in there he raised various concerns to do a constitutional validity of this budget, issues to do with transparency, and the impact of this budget on the citizens. But beyond talking about these numbers, we know that Mr. Biti, Honorable Tendai Biti, has constantly highlighted issues such as the Mutapa Fund, which he has argued that has evolved into a state within a state, and that's right there kind of undermines accountability and fiscal oversight. So, in this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to explore his perspective on the budget, unpack what it means for Zimbabwe's economic future, and discuss whether opposition politics can be a credible alternative path for the nation going forward, for the future, for the way forward. So, over to you, Honorable Tendai Bit. I want to begin by asking you this question. The 2026 national budget, many have described it as lacking transparency and failing to address the everyday struggles of the Zimbabweans. So, from your perspective, what do you see as the most pressing weaknesses in this budget, and how do they reflect the broader challenges facing our economy? Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Ango Jedza. I think that when one crafts a budget, you are addressing 3 issues. The first one is that you are addressing the mischief, the challenges that a country will be facing. And so you need to address the mischief. What are those burning questions? What are those burning issues that need to be resolved? Secondly, you are fulfilling the country's developmental thrust. And I've argued in the piece that I wrote for the Zim Life that Section 298 of the Constitution imposes a democratic developmental polity on Zimbabwe public finances. So whether you are like it or not, whether you are neoliberal, whether you are to the right, you are bound to develop a pathway that pursues a broad national development that is anchored on transparency and openness, on equality and on fairness. So that is the key. The third aspect of a budget is the allocative role of the budget, is to allocate scarce resources to the nation. The government and the Minister of Finance oversees the consolidated.
Right. I think Honorable Biti, are you still there? I think I've lost you for a minute there. Right. Let me see if I can get him reconnected, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining me for the first time, thank you very much, for coming through. We are here with Honorable and IBT. We are unpacking Mthuli Ncube's budget, and in there we are going to be talking about the way forward in terms of the opposition and the alternative, or the alternative in the future. We are looking into the future. So I hope is still connecting. I hope I'll get him back as soon as possible. Right. Okay. Yeah. He is. I think he's facing a challenge with his connection, but I'll try to get him, reconnected, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're fine. I hope I'm finding you well. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you can repost this, it will be very much appreciated. Let me see if I can invite him once again. Let me see if I can invite him once again. We haven't covered much, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're just joining us, amuna kunonoka. We are still, in the beginning. We are still there. We're trying to get this thing, going. So I'm just waiting, see if you can come back. Kutinya the network sometimes it can be difficult, it can be challenging. But I've sent him a request. Honorable, if you can respond to that request. Thank you very much. Hello, yes, how are you?
Oh, this is typical. Electricity just went off.
Serious?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Is there anything in
Yeah.
the budget that that addresses that?
It's it's just electricity just went off.
Oh
Uh,
dear. Oh dear.
so my internet dropped, and
Ah,
I guess that just summarizes the state of the economy and the state of the state.
absolutely.
Yeah. So let me come back, and it means that I have to be very quick there because I'm in Zimbabwe. So I was saying the budget plays an allocative role.
Mhm.
It is the most decisive instrument in respect of which the government plays a Bonapartist role, an intervention role in the management of the country's affairs, and the allocative role of the state, particularly in social services. And in this regard, a minister of finance faces a trilemma. And the trilemma that one faces is a trilemma of huge expectations. Number two, the trilemma of a huge demands. But number three, the fiscal leg room is simply doesn't exist. So the budget, therefore, essentially represents a balancing act, a prioritization of the priorities in a country, particularly in a developmental state like Zimbabwe, in a dominated social formation like Zimbabwe. You are balancing multiple interests: the interests of war veterans, of students, of women, of farmers, of people in the informal sector, of people in the regions, devolution. So you are doing a lot of things. So coming to Zimbabwe, the question that should be asked is, what are those issues that the ordinary average Zimbabwean expected our government to address in this budget? I think the ordinary average person will tell you that they are affected by poverty. 49% of our people are living in extreme poverty. As I wrote yesterday, the number of people living in national extreme poverty doubled up between 2010 and 2011, and these are the number of people that are living below $2.15, a day. The number of people that can't consume the basic calories that are required per day in Zimbabwe are a staggering 49%, meaning that the majority of our people are going on a day-to-day basis without adequate food. So people expected a generous budget. I would have expected an increase in real terms in the budgets of health, the budget of education, BEAM, for instance, and in social grants given to our people. But many people would also have expected to see a decisive position on a durable macroeconomic stability, the exchange rate, for instance, fiscal discipline, for instance. People would have expected the budget to address the elephant in the living room, the issue of corruption, the issue of cartels, which I can speak for an entire day on. People would have expected to see a budget that addresses the gross capital formation in our country, the state of our roads, the state of our dams, the state of electricity. Ironically, as I was speaking to you, power went off. We are generating less than 1,000 megawatts when we require 4,000 megawatts, and we've installed capacity of 2,000 megawatts. People would have expected a reduction and review of the taxation regime. Zimbabweans are over taxed, and before the rebasing of our economy, the tax revenues contributed to 32% of GDP, when an average African country like Zimbabwe, the contribution should be around 16%. So we are doubly taxed. People expected a total removal of the IMMT tax, a reduction in the levels of VAT, an increase in tax-free credits and the tax-free threshold of employees, particularly when Mthuli Ncube is given free lunch to the bosses. Corporate tax is going to be reduced to 15 percent. People expected to see an overhaul of the country's regulatory framework. Zimbabwe is over-regulated. Zimbabwe is over-legislated. People expected to see a response to that. People expected to see a reform and restructuring of the banking sector. You can't have a banking sector that doesn't offer savings accounts. You can't have an economy that doesn't have cheap money and cheap credit. In any other country, there's higher purchase, there are mortgage finances. These things don't exist in Zimbabwe. Any decent country requires savings that are at least 25% of GDP. China, the second largest economy in the world, has got savings that are 50% of GDP. We don't have savings in Zimbabwe. And where you have got the banking sector making 50% to 60% of its income from non-interest income, from bank charges, then that country is fundamentally wrong. Pensioners expected relief from the billions and billions of dollars that they've lost through multiple currency changes since 2006. And pensioners are living from hand to mouth. Farmers expected some definitive answer, some definitive program from the handouts that they receive. So you see that the budget doesn't address virtually and literally all the above. But most importantly, and I didn't write about this, the budget itself is not credible. And I'll just give you
Right.
a few examples of the credibility. You see, before you go to the political issues I was talking about, the
Mm-hmm.
budget itself must be a sound a document from a technical point of view. Now, I'll illustrate why this is not a credible budget from a technical point of view. So I start off with what exchange rate is this budget using? The budget has celebrated the fact that the exchange rate is stabilized at around 1 is to 26. You see that being celebrated in the budget. So
Mm-hmm.
you then ask, what exchange rate does this budget actually use? Now,
Use.
if you go into the budget, you will see that they're expecting to collect revenue in ZIG terms of 225, 669
Trillion.
billion dollars, which translates to US $7.9 billion dollars. If you interpose 7.9 billion US dollars to 225.669 billion ZIG, it will give you an exchange rate of 1 is to 35. So, in other words, a government that is celebrating a stable exchange rate of 1 is to 26 is actually employing an exchange rate of 1 is to
And it's
35.
35.
So before you have started, the government itself has thrown a vote of no confidence in its own proclaimed stability exchange rate of 1 is to 26. That shows lack of confidence, that shows lack of credibility. Another example I want to give is the rate of inflation. The
Mm-hmm.
government says the rate of inflation will be around 12% and 13% for next year. And in fact, Minister Mthuli predicts that by the end of next year, inflation in Zimbabwe will be single digit inflation. We test that now. We test that
Mm.
now with his own figures. So, if you look at the figures, revenue is expected to grow to 9.5. In fact, I'll start with the expenditure.
Mm-hmm.
The expenditure for 2025 is US $8.1 billion.
Right.
It is expected to increase to US $9.5 billion. The
Right.
percentage increase is 17.28%.
Mm-hmm.
So the government's own anticipated growth is 17.28%. Now here's the challenge. The challenge is that the anticipated growth rate for next year is 5%. The anticipated growth rate for this year, 2025, is 6%. 6.6%. I'll come
.6%.
to that figure. So if you are saying that economic growth rate next year is 5%, your revenue figures should not be above that.
Right.
Secondly, they should not be above the rate of inflation of 12%. Here, I've just demonstrated that it's actually 17.28 percent. So you then ask, where is this money going to come from, and on what basis? When you've anchored your growth rate at 5% in 2026. For 2025,
Mm-hmm.
there's an elementary carelessness. If you read the small budget speech, in the small budget speech, the growth rate is projected to be 6%. If
Mm-hmm.
you read the actual main document, the growth rate is expected to be 6.6%. So
Yes.
elementary carelessness. Then Another elementary carelessness is on revenue measures. So revenue measures are contained in the finance bill. Revenue measures are contained in the finance bill. So in the finance bill, that's where you see the tax proposals. Now, there are certain tax proposals that are not in the finance bill. Because the finance bill, the minister must tell the government printers at least 10 hours before the budget is presented on the 27th
of
of
November.
November. So you must tell the government printers. But the budget, we used to sleep at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. when you are presenting the budget at 3 a.m. the following day, because you always make changes. So now there are certain tax proposals that are being made in the budget statement that are not contained in the revenue proposals. So, for instance, the proposal to increase VAT to 15.5% from 15% is actually not contained in the finance bill. The proposal to tax the e-commerce and digital platforms like TikTok, like Starlink, is also not in the finance bill, but it's in the budget statement. What does this reflect? It reflects lack of credibility. It reflects a carelessness. It reflects lackadaisicness. It reflects indifference. So I mention these things just to show what kind of government that we're dealing with. But for me, the most glaring omission is the lack of an ideological anchor on this budget, the vacuousness. If you are on the right and Mutuli is neoliberal, you seek for a small government. You look for you hate taxes. You understand? But this budget is the opposite. But we know he doesn't like our people. This budget is so anti-people. So it exposes such bare vacuousness, such a lack of anger. And which is why I said in my Zim Live article that it is not loyal to Section 298 of the Constitution, because Section 298 of the Constitution pins our financial management and our financial management policy to an ideology, the ideology of a developmental state. Whether we did that consciously or subconsciously, I don't know, but that is the product you have in Section 298 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe.
Right. Oof. That is not quite loaded. You know what? There's a part of your presentation, or there's a part of this budget which we tried. I mean, I've discussed this with with other people before, and this is to do with our GDP. You spoke about it. This GDP growth rate of 6.6 percent. Um, we have been grappling with that concept in some of the spaces that we've had in terms of what a GDP means, right? But when we are looking at the GDP in Zimbabwe, the figures that are being bandied about, I think you have actually poured scorn on this figure, and you're saying that our GDP is not, we are not a $52 billion economy. Can you give us an explanation of what a GDP is? And can you give us your understanding of what this government is doing and what it has done to get us to this $52 billion economy?
Right. So economics is quantitative.
Mm,
Economics is empirical. It works on data.
mhm,
And economics is concerned with the measurement of output. What are you producing? What are you
mm,
producing? So a farmer, for instance, will know his output. A farmer will know that I'll plant 1 hectares of maize, for instance. On this 1 hectare, I expect to get maybe 7 tons.
mm,
So his yield is 7 tons per hectare. And if the price of maize is $300 per ton, that farmer knows that he has 2,100. 7 times 3 is 21. So that's output. That's output. So a country is producing the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And the country has different baskets of wealth. There is manufacturing, there is farming, there is mining, there is tourism, there is construction, there is education, there is consumption, supermarkets, and so forth. There is health, hospitals, and money that So economists then aggregate these outputs and come up with a figure and a thing called nominal GDP. So nominal GDP is the quantitative measurement of a country's output. This GDP figure is under threat from economists who say it's not a fair reflection of the true wealth of a country.
Mm.
What about happiness, for instance?
Mm.
What about people's freedom?
Wow.
What about the quality of life of people? So you are telling me, for instance, that I'm a $52 billion, but if I didn't have solar energy in my house, I wouldn't have been having this conversation. What about that? What about potholes?
And they tell us the gross national, income is, we are looking at US 3.2.
Yes. So so generally it's now understood, it's now agreed by top economists and my friend from Columbia University, Joseph Stiglitz, a Nobel Prize Nobel economist, is one of those leading global economists that have criticized and have written about the fact that we need a new instrument of measurement. But
Right.
let's stick to GDP
Mm-hmm.
because we haven't found a
Yeah, because that is
better
what is there.
a
Yes.
better. So again, one of the critics of GDP, for instance, it doesn't measure, for instance, inflation.
Ah,
So you can have your GDP of 20 billion if inflation is 500 billion% like it was in 2008. It's meaningless because inflation is stealing people's lives. You
life,
can have
yes.
great GDP, but you are in a war. So in Russia now and Ukraine, they're actually producing. In fact, the Russian economy has been doing so well during the 4 years of war with Ukraine. But an average Russian will tell you that I'm not happy, I'm not reading newspapers, I'm afraid to get bombed, I'm afraid of drones.
Mm.
So these are some of the limitations and weaknesses of GDP as a measurement of wealth, as a measurement of output. But let's accept that. Let's accept that.
Right. Yes.
So generally, our GDP has been very small. In 1980, it was 7 billion US dollars.
Mm.
It was the same size of Kenya. It was slightly above Zambia. Zambia was $4 billion dollars. But by 2019, Kenya was a 264 billion economy. Zambia was
Mm.
in its 40 billion. And we were around 19 billion dollars. Kenya right now is now the 12th largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, with foreign currency reserves of around $12 billion. And Zimbabwe has got foreign currency reserves that are below $1 billion.
Right.
Yeah. So in 2019, our GDP was around $20 billion.
20 billion.
Yeah,
Yes.
$20 billion. In 2021, 2022, they are now talking of $22 billion to $25 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In 2024, so they claim, Zimstad carried out a rebasing of the economy.
Yes.
So when you rebase, you are doing two things. You are quantitatively measuring output.
Mm-hmm.
You are also introducing a new base year. Every economy has got a base year. In other words, a year you are starting from.
Right.
So up until 2009, we're starting from 1980.
Mm.
So when we say 5% growth rate, we are saying 5% growth rate of the previous year, starting from 1980.
Right.
So in 2009, 2010, when I was in government, we couldn't use 1980 because 1980 had been vandalized by the years of hyperinflation from 2004 to 2008.
Absolutely.
So we then rebased the economy and started in 2009.
2009.
Because
Right.
in 2009, we began a new narrative, a narrative of dollarization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have been using 2009 as a base year. So what they then do now, published in July 2025, in the midterm statement of July 2025,
2025.
yeah,
Yes.
they suddenly tell us that we rebased, and our base year is now 2023.
Right.
Yeah,
So for the reasons given, when you did it, we had reasons of the
of
hyperinflation, etc.,
hyperinflation.
etc.
So economics no longer
Yes.
meant anything. When you have
Exactly.
hyperinflation of 500 billion percent, it no longer makes sense.
Absolutely. So this time around, what was the reason?
They don't explain, and remember, this was not a public process. They just
Ah.
announced. So they
Because I
then
remember,
suddenly,
them saying that is because we haven't captured enough of the informal market. This is why we are doing this.
but so what they tell us now is that the GDP in 2023, the base year, is now 44.5 billion.
Mm,
In 2024, it's now 45.7 billion.
mm,
In 2025, because we have a growth rate of 6%, it's
6.6.
now
Yeah,
52.4 billion.
billion. Quantitatively, how are these figures? How do we arrive at these figures?
So they
I
say
mean,
now,
mm,
we examined the economy, and we found out that we've got about 229,000 enterprises in the country.
mhm.
But they don't tell us from what level, how much did we have in 2019.
Ah, right.
They then also tell us now that but 71%, hello,
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on, go on.
yeah, they then tell us,
71%.
yeah,
Yeah.
71% of these 229,000 industries are actually in the informal sector.
Right. 71%.
71%. Now that should send alarm bells to you.
So are we talking about people that sell madomasi, vegetable, all my sweets, all these economic activities? Are these the industries that they are talking about?
You and I know the informal sector.
Yes.
It is an unregistered enterprise that doesn't have a VAT number, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have a ZIMRA TIN number, that operates on the basis of presumptive taxes.
Mm.
For instance, a hairdresser. For
Ah,
instance, our compatriots who are making furniture in Glenview.
right.
For instance, our compatriots who are running Mushikashika
Ah,
and Kombis. So you then have to say, how does 71% of how does this 1% located in the informal sector then explain for 100% increase in GDP from $20 billion in 2019 to 45
in 2024,
in 2023?
23 years,
Yes.
yes.
And then they don't create a website. Zimstats doesn't create a website that says these are our findings, these are the companies.
They're just throwing figures.
And then uncritically, none of the bodies that have got capacity of actually commenting on the authenticity, the validity, the legitimacy of the claims of GDP have come forward to question. This includes the IMF, this includes the African Development Bank, this includes the World Bank.
Right.
And also,
But I'm told that the IMF kind of questioned these figures here. Is that true?
if you look at the Article 4, a report of the IMF that was published in October of 2025,
Mm-hmm.
a few months ago, they ignore the rebased figures.
Oh,
They use the old figures.
right. So where does the growth rate now stand if they are using the old figures? Are we still at 6.6%?
So, separate growth rate from the size of the economy.
Uh-huh. Okay.
The growth rate remains the same 5%, whether you have got 20 billion or whether you have got 45 billion.
Right. No, I hear you.
The growth rate is simply a measurement of the economy from what it
Economic
was
activity.
last year to now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hear you there.
But the question becomes critical: is it 6% on a rat or it's 6% on an elephant?
Yeah,
And
this
the
one is
government has re-engineered the rate that the Zimbabwean economy was to make it into an elephant of
it's,
$52 billion.
and yet it's a rat.
And Zimbabweans have got a legitimate question: how does a rat mutate into an elephant?
Mm.
But you see, if the economy becomes an elephant, the citizen doesn't have to be told.
Absolutely, yes.
The citizen feels it.
It shows on the ground.
So if you land in Cape Town, and I was in Cape Town to see my daughter this weekend,
Mm.
you know it's a big economy.
Right.
If you land in Joburg at the OR International Airport, you know it's a big economy because the next thing you are in a multi-million-dollar train that is taking you to Santo,
Absolutely.
and there's no pothole. You drive from Joburg to Durban, it's 4 lanes this way, 4 lanes
All
that
is
way.
that way.
Yeah. Now, so I ask the question: if you take my Ezra in Chigamakuni,
Yes.
if you take my Peter in Cholocho, if you take my Dube in Chidayen's village, Chendampuya, does she feel that her gross national income is US $3,200?
Yeah.
Because my Ezra knows that she is not earning US $1.25 a day.
Yes. That is what she's living on.
You understand?
Mm.
And when you say we are now 3,200, you are now saying we are bigger than Kenya, for instance.
Oh dear.
We are bigger than Botswana. But any Zimbabwean will tell you that we're not bigger than Botswana. That's why there's so many of us in Botswana, in Cameroon.
Mm.
So so why did they engineer these figures? They
23rd
engineered
agenda.
these figures because they want to meet the self-set target of Mr. Mnangagwa that says Zimbabwe will be an upper middle income country by 2030. And to be an upper middle income country, you have to have gross national income of 4,496 to 13,900. That's the bracket.
Wow.
So if we are on 3,200, they are very close.
We are almost there.
Yeah. So in simple terms, they are cooking figures in order to meet the political illusion of a middle income country.
Right. Whilst, Mr. Biti, whilst we are on these weaknesses and on that aspect, can you talk to me about how these shortcomings that you've highlighted, how do they connect to the broader governance issues such as corruption, accountability, and the management of public funds? And what reforms you think should be essential to restore confidence in Zimbabwe's economic planning? And on that note, if you can then talk to me about what you would have done, if you are in Mthuli Ncube's seat, right now.
So when you rebase now, when you say you're an elephant,
Mm,
when you're a rat, and a
that's
sewer rat
corruption.
for that matter, a sewer rat for that matter.
That's corruption.
Yeah, you see, as I said, economics is quantitative. So there are certain ratios that technically show the health of a country.
Mm,
Are you with me?
yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, yeah. So ratios that show the health of a country, including the percentage of revenue to GDP.
Hmm.
As I said, if your revenue to GDP is anything above 30%, you are over reliant on taxation. So it shows that there's something wrong there. Your people are overtaxed.
Absolutely.
But when you increase the GDP now and it becomes an elephant, it means that your revenues are now being applied against the bigger percent and they are now lowered.
Aha.
So our revenues, so the percentage is lower. One of the critical measurement of a country's health is debt to GDP.
Mm,
So any debt to GDP ratio of above 60% is unhealthy, is unsustainable.
right.
So our debt is around $23 billion. So
23.
$23 billion as a percentage of $20 billion in 2019 is about 110%. That's unhealthy.
Right. And
But
what is this supposed to be?
hello?
What is a healthy figure? What is a healthy, percentage?
A healthy percentage is below 50%.
Right. Okay.
A best one would be 30%.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah. So when you take that $23 billion now as a percentage of $52.4 billion, it's now below 50%.
Ah.
So technically we are now healthy.
Ah. So they're killing so many birds with one stone.
Exactly. But the lie, guy, is a lie.
A lie is a lie, yes.
And the lie has short legs because when you read the budget itself, they are complaining of debt unsustainability. They are saying
Right.
we can't pay these debts. So in the last 2 years, they've paid almost $1 billion in debt repayment. They're saying we can't afford that. And of course, they can't afford that. Because if your revenues are $6 billion and you're paying $1 billion, then you've got a problem.
Absolutely.
So they are now caught out now on the demand side. Because when they make these payments, they are not consistent with an elephant, they are consistent with the rat that the
Right.
economy is. So they are then caught in flagranto, as we say in Latin. They are caught with their pants down, they're exposed.
They're all over.
So that's the challenge that they have now, is that there's a credibility gap
Hmm.
in their documents. And one of the things that is very disturbing, if you read this budget, it's expressed in Zig. So you have to take a calculator and say, how much is this in US dollars?
A mind
And
job.
when you put it in US dollars, the incredulousness then is exposed.
Hmm.
But you ask me, what are those things that needs to be done?
To be done, yes.
Yes, there are transitional issues. Then there are long-term issues.
Right.
So the first and obvious one is that we need credibility in our data. So quite clearly, we have to revisit the rebasing of 2024 and 2025. It doesn't benefit us at all. It doesn't benefit us at all. And let me explain why it doesn't benefit us. We have got an external debt of almost $15 billion. We have arrears of about $7 billion. We owe the World Bank $2 billion US. We owe the African Development Bank around $800 million. We owe the Paris Club of Lenders around $5 billion. We owe the African Import and Export Bank probably around $2 billion.
Right.
We owe the Chinese anything between 4 billion and 6 billion. Those figures keep on floating like playing tennis with a continuously changing baseline.
Right.
So we have no capacity of repaying this debt, which is why the government has embarked on this high-level debt dialogue.
Okay.
The high-level debt strategy is basically...
Is this the one that has got, is this the one that has got the former Mozambican president? What's his name?
Chisano, and the
Yes.
president of the African Development Bank, former President Adesina. I haven't seen the new president accepting to help Zimbabwe. We will see.
Right.
Yeah, but you are right. It is that program that was launched by President Mugabe, by President Mnangagwa at the colorful ceremony 3 years ago at the Harare Sheraton.
All right, yes.
Now, when countries are in debt distress, they depend on the forgiveness and debt cancellation by multilateral institutions in a process called HIPIC or some other euphemism. Hello?
This is what you're talking about.
But Kunzuru happens on certain terms.
Right.
On certain conditionality.
That are imposed by those that are willing to forgive.
Yeah, but this is standard. This has been happening since the Glen Eagle Summit of 2005.
All right.
So it's a precedent. It's everyone has gone through it in Nigeria, Ghana, and so forth. In fact, the challenge with Africa right now is that debt is like a drug. Debt is like alcoholism. Many of the countries who were cleared by the first round of HIPIC have gone back to bad habits.
They are back to square one.
They are back to square zero. So we've got a new wave. We've got a new wave of debt. Certain countries somewhere write a PhD on this new wave of debt, but that's a story for another day. So I come to this debt wave. So HIPIC essentially involves two things. You must show and demonstrate that you can manage your economy well and that you are not going to fall into debt distress again. So you need to have a program with the IMF.
Okay.
That program is called a staff monitored program, an SMP.
We have had those, I remember having those.
We've had about 6 of those. We've all failed them.
Right.
And right now, if you look at the Article 4 report, the IMF is not talking about a staff monitored program. However, if you look at the World Bank Outlook that was released on the 1st of December, 2 days ago, the World Bank is speaking on behalf of the IMF, and they are hoping that in the first quarter of next year, Zimbabwe can have an IMF program, a staff monitored program. But if you look at the Article 4 team, the IMF has serious reservations about corruption. The IMF has got serious reservations about the Mutapa Fund. The IMF has got serious reservations about Zimbabwe's intended return to de-dollarization to the monocurrency.
Right.
So I'll be surprised if the IMF quickly embraces a staff monitored program because they know that Zimbabwe will fail because of these structural issues. Over expenditure, lack of fiscal discipline, debt that is being hidden in treasury bills, a treasury that is now making direct payments, these arrears, including the $1.7 billion that was an eighth of invalidated expenditure. But let me go back to how it's not in our best interest to be a high middle income country.
Right.
I want to go back to that.
So I mean, if it is a desired position for him, in our best interest, it's not.
I'm going to explain.
Right. Go on.
I'm going to explain. Firstly, to be called high income or low income is just a label.
Just talk.
It's just talk. It means nothing.
Right.
We have to earn the right to be called a middle income or upper income. We have to develop our economy. We have to grow our economy. It has to be inclusive. So we can't be called high income when, or upper middle income when 95% of our people are unemployed. When 4 in 5 graduates can't find jobs. When engineers are selling airtime at Runare House in Zimbabwe. We can't be called middle income when 70% of our people have no access to ablution, covered ablution facilities. They still use a wall that they share with their animals in places like Chendambuya, Cholocho, and the Mrewa, and the Chigamakuni village.
Right.
Yeah. So now, with the debt relief now, the way debt relief works is that you get a staff monitored program. You yourself, you set yourself quantitative and qualitative targets, which you agree with the IMF.
Right. These are the ones that you come up with you yourself,
You
and then you
yourself, they are
agree.
not forced upon you. In the olden
Right.
days, they used to set them up.
So if we are failing this, are we over promising them to say, okay, this we can do, and yet we've got no capacity of doing that?
No, look, the Minister of Finance will be genuine, but he's not the boss.
All right.
You understand? So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
can say, yes, I will not spend more than, I will not have a budget deficit of more than 3% of GDP, but he's told buy cars.
By guys,
He's told go and
there's
put a car
Tungwarara.
in a
There's
village.
Tungwarara
So
out there.
he's
There's
told
Tungwarara out there who wants to move around with
yeah,
with
he's
500,000.
told pay $1.9 billion from Mutapa to Kudata Gire.
Yes. Right.
So when you meet these quantitative and qualitative targets, these quantitative and qualitative targets are to create a track record. These quantitative and qualitative targets are to show that if your debt is cancelled, if your debt is forgiven, you won't go back to the old days. You won't go back in a drunken stupor. But
It's
for
like
you,
it's like you've gone to a rehab and you say, okay, I'm coming out, I'm now clean, I'm never going to go back.
yes. So you've got an addict, you've got a drug addict, so they are testing you.
Right.
Some have got sex addicts, they are testing you. So
Right.
if you're a drug addict, they are leaving a bottle of whiskey by your side. And they're saying, they're coming to your room the following morning and say, my brother,
What happened there?
what happened there?
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's an SMP.
Mm.
So, but the critical thing about debt forgiveness is that you must be poor.
Right.
Because if you are rich, You must
You
pay
can't.
your debt using your own resources.
Exactly.
You understand? So debt relief is only available to low-income countries.
To those who are poor.
So, in other words, those whose gross national income is below 1,200.
Ah.
So, if you cook your figures and push your gross national income to 3,200, you are basically saying we are not poor. And the World Bank, the Americans, the British, the Paris Club of Lenders will say, but pay your debt.
So we are basically shooting ourselves in the boot.
We are
We are on our way to shooting
we
ourselves in
are
the boot.
shooting ourselves in the foot.
Wow.
So the World Bank is basically saying debt relief is available to those that are poor and ugly. I'm an ugly black man. What Zimbabwe is trying to do is to put lipstick and mascara on the ugly man called Tendai Biti and say, here's a slay queen. He qualifies to be a woman. Here's his Instagram account.
Wow.
But you and I know you can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah, you can't.
So they are shooting themselves in the foot in order to achieve a political. So instead of saying we want to be an upper middle income country, all that this regime needed is to say we want to build a strong, robust developmental state by
By
2030
2030,
with with a
yes.
with a with a full employment, and you leave it like that.
You don't say much.
You don't say much, you leave it like that. But once you then put a quantitative target with the micro and macro implications, you are committing harikiri, as the Japanese will call it.
Absolutely.
So it's ill thought, it's madness, it's vacuous, it's reflective of lack of craft competence. Hazina kurongeka. Hazina kurongeka kana.
Is okay? What we've spoken about so far. There's nothing positive outside of that. I want us
No,
to
there are
briefly
some
briefly.
positives.
Okay.
So there is a gold boom at the present moment.
Okay.
The price of gold has exceeded $4,000 an ounce.
Mm.
And as long as the geopolitical infrastructure of the world remains uncertain, the war in Russia, in Ukraine, the genocide in the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
the fun and games between China and Taiwan,
Taiwan, yes.
the uncertain situation in the United States of America, the growth of nationalism, the growth of fake news, the growth of populism.
Mm.
As long as the world remains unsteady, as long as the world continues to sleepwalk into a third world war, gold becomes a safe haven for investment.
Ah, right.
Meaning that the price of gold will go up.
Will continue going
Now,
up.
here's the thing.
Mm.
Artisanal miners are producing gold in Zimbabwe. 65% of the gold being produced in this country is being produced by artisanal miners.
Right.
And this year, they could easily get to 47 tons. We've never done that. We've always limped around 12 tons, 13 tons, 15 tons.
Mm. Mm.
So if you get to, and so gold has become important, it's now 70% of all export earnings for foreign currency.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so, but this gold boom, we are not harvesting it.
Right.
Just like the diamond boom, we didn't harvest it. No one knows where the money went. So this boom is not permanent. There will be elections in America in 2028. There will be a new president in America in 2028 who can go back to the old multilateral order that we all knew what America was about. And Europe is reorganizing. France and Germany are taking strong position against the Putin's impunity. So the gold boom, we might miss the gold boom.
Right.
There's also something that is happening in our tobacco. Over 300 million kilograms was produced. Average price 320, 350. Income of over $1 billion US. But that is also missing us. Is it transforming the country? Or the money is going to consumerism? So if you look at the results, for instance, of the INSCO Simbisa group, their revenues are over $1 billion. So Chicken Inn is giving you $1 billion.
Right.
Where is that money coming from? What is fueling Chicken Inn? What is fueling KFC? It's the informal sector.
Right.
So we need to transform this economy. We need to alter the accumulation model. So what am I saying? I'm saying there are pockets of the economy that are doing well that need to be harvested. And we're not doing that.
Right.
What are we doing? We are engaging in most obscene consumerism. All these vehicles that you are seeing being donated and bought are being bought by Treasury. It's not fed so and so. That money is coming from the Treasury.
And they're only benefiting the affiliates. I've seen today
why should we buy
affiliate.
GD6s instead of building factories?
What?
Instead of improving our hospitals?
Right.
So this class of 2017, which is a class founded on blatant bohemian consumerism, is spending away in first-class business tickets to Dubai. The little green shoots of our economy, founded in tobacco, founded in gold, and also diaspora remittances. Diaspora remittances are 2.7 billion US dollars. You guys are sending money at home.
Right.
But it's not transforming the country because we've got a government that is kaput, a government that is kleptocratic, a kakistocracy. So instead of using this bubble economy, I call it a bubble economy, to make significant improvements to the lives of our people, we are buying Lamborghinis, whatever, those Bentleys. Are we crazy? If you go to Sam Levis Village and Highlands Park, you will see these cars. One day I was going to walk to work on Enterprise Road. I hear a funny sound like I'm at a Formula One. I turn, there's a red car. I look at it, it's a Maserati. Why would anyone normal drive a Maserati in Zimbabwe? If you are normal.
Right.
And somebody has got 4, 5, 6 Bentleys, same color. What are you trying to do?
anyway, anyway, honorable, our time is. You know what? With you, we can talk. For the whole day. Our time, is fast moving. But yes, I wanted, to have a highlight of the positives, which you have, given, right there in terms of the God. But I want us to then pivot onto um I want us to pivot onto something here. But no, there's a question on governance issues, and we've got the concentration of power in the Mutapa Fund. Can you explain to us, what is going on here? Does this budget reflect that, those deeper governance issues? Quickly on that Mutapa Fund thing.
Yeah, it's more than Mutapa. I'll come to Mutapa. As I
Right.
have written for Zim Life,
Mm.
the budget entrenches corruption. So you have a budget that confesses to US $1.2 billion
Hmm.
owed to arrears. You have an auditor general who confirms that 70% of payments are being made directly by Treasury, around $2 billion US dollars. Then
Right.
you have got this new revelation that there's US $1.7 billion of invalidated expenditure beyond the 1.2 billion.
Mm.
So money that was spent that was not budgeted for on roads, on dams, and so forth, which confirms that there's a parallel government somewhere. But this parallel government, we know it has already existed because in the past 7 years, they've come up with 2 financial adjustment bills.
Hmm.
In 2015, in 2018, 2019, they came up with a financial adjustment bill of 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 $110 billion for money spent between 2015 and 2018. Then they came with the second financial adjustment bill of about around 106 billion RTGS dollars. Now you've got this $1.7 billion. And as the figures I always give, in 2017, $2.7 billion was spent outside the budget. Of that $2.7 billion, $1.5 billion was stolen on 26 December 2017. For Christ's sake, Jedza, who still was on Christmas Day, 2018, $3.5 billion. Hello?
No, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
listening.
2019, $6.6 billion. 20, 20, they chased me away from the Public Accounts Committee. But we now know that every year they've been stealing around $2 billion that is not budgeted for. Now on their own, without prompting by the Auditor General, they've said we've got $1.7 billion invalidated. So you've got the
Right.
tragedy, you've got the tragedy
Mm.
of the Ministry of Finance,
Uh-huh.
which is a regulatory ministry that oversees other ministries in terms of the power that they have in terms of the Public Finance Management Act.
Right.
They are a gatekeeping ministry, but they are now at the epicenter of looting. Dodge Guamatanga is at the epicenter of looting directly through treasury. So you have got the
Mm.
tragedy in Zimbabwe of the gatekeeper being the gatecrasher,
Being the
being the
looter.
looter. And the situation is not helped thanks to Chabangu that we don't have a parliament. Bar a
Right.
few individuals like my sister Gladys Kachwai and others, a few, very few.
Hey.
So we are in problems, which is why spaces like yours become so important,
Oh, thank you.
because
Thank
at
you on
least
that.
people can speak
Right.
out,
Absolutely. And we'll continue to
which is
offer the
why
space.
writing editorial opinions becomes so critical. because at least
Absolutely.
we are documenting these things. We are documenting, these things. Which brings me to Mtapa Fund.
Yes.
So we had a Sovereign Wealth Act of Zimbabwe
Mm-hmm.
that was enacted in 2014. The idea of a sovereign wealth is very noble. The idea of a sovereign wealth fund is very noble. Sovereign wealth funds are basically savings accounts for future generations. So resource-rich countries, countries with minerals, with oil, will create this sovereign wealth fund to be used by future generations, 100 years away, because the resources are finite. You can run out of oil, you can run out of gold. And the biggest sovereign wealth fund
Right.
in the world is that of Norway, because it has fantastic reserves of oil in the North Sea. So Zimbabwe is
Mhm.
commodity rich. It has got 63 minerals. So the idea of a sovereign wealth fund was to say we create a sovereign wealth fund that we deposit and use these funds for future generations. And it's also important because it's a savings account, meaning that banks and institutions can borrow it to finance mortgages and hire purchases for people in the present, in the now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a progressive idea.
Right.
2 years ago, through a presidential decree, the Sovereign Wealth Fund is changed. It's now called the Mtapa Fund.
The Mtaba Fund, yes.
It now basically becomes an asset management company
Ah,
that
right.
houses the shares of certain state-owned enterprises and parastatals.
Mhm.
So basically, every parastatal is now there. Zimbabwe, the National Railways of Zimbabwe, Wange, I said ZESA, PTC, Net1, ZMDC, and so forth.
If I may ask, what is the reason for, what was the reason for establishing this and putting all these paracerials under this
Because
Mutaba
someone wants
Fund?
to loot.